Hi there, and welcome to everybody tuning in. We are live from Ibrox. I'm Kyle McLean, and this is Craig Dennett. We've just seen Rangers defeat Morton 2-1 in the Scottish Cup.
Not the
Craig,
Scottish Cup, the Viaplay League Cup.
that's the one. It's been a long afternoon, hasn't it? In the League Cup here, but let's get straight into it. What's your overall thoughts on that game, Craig?
It's kind of more of the same, not really inspiring, not really showing us the signs that we want to see as we head into a big game, obviously, on Tuesday night against PSV. I understand there were 8 changes to the starting lineup. I think it was expected that there would be a number of changes to the team. I guess it's understandable also that there's not the natural cohesion that we're looking for, but we're not seeing cohesion in any players we put on the park at this moment in time, which is a bit of a concern. Ultimately, we went through. Could have been a lot easier for us. Morton's goalkeeper had a really good game, but we didn't create enough chances. I don't think we created some good ones. Dessers had a really good one at the start of the first half. With plenty in the second half after Morton went ahead. Morton just were starting to die on their feet at that point, but we won the game, and that's the most important thing. It was touch and go a wee bit when we went 1-0 behind, but the team showed the resilience, I think was the word that Michael Beale used in his post-match press conference, to come from behind.
Yeah.
I think that's happening a little too often, probably more than a little too often, that we're conceding the first goal in games. It seems as though it's been a perennial issue for Rangers that we do concede the first goal and we're up against it and got to try and come back. But we won 2-1. It should have been a lot more. We should have won by a lot more, and we're in the next round. And I guess that's getting through to the next round is the most important thing.
Agreed. We got there in the end. Let's take it back to the starting lineup. You referenced it there. Michael Beale made 8 changes with Butland in goal. We weren't actually sure if we were going to a back 3 or a back 4 or what was happening, but it turned out it was a back 4 at the end of the day. Sterling on the right, Balogun, Goldson, Yefeko on the left, which I'm sure I'd like to get your thoughts on that later on. Lundstrom sort of sitting in the deeper role, Cifuentes and Dowell playing slightly wider of Lundstrom, and then got Matondo, Dessers and Lammers up front. I think it was the people that maybe weren't starting. Yanis Hagi, who we'll certainly come on to later on, he had a very interesting post-match press conference there. But what did you make of that overall lineup initially?
Probably the changes that I was expecting, to be honest. The midfield's always an interesting one because there are a number of bodies in there that want to be playing and that are competing for a place. It was interesting to see that it was Dowell, Cifuentes and Lundstrom. Today, I think Michael Beale still likes John Lundstrom, and he's almost trying to find a place for him in his starting lineup. So that's an interesting one. In terms of the back 4, we were looking at it going, is that 4 centre halves we're playing across the back 4? But Dujon Sterling made his first start. Don't think he set the header alight with it. There's been a lot of calls for him to potentially play in that left back role actually in recent games, but don't think he really set the header alight with that one. It was interesting that he didn't drive forward as much as I thought he might. He was more of a defensive right back than he was the right back, kind of the style of right back, I guess, that we're used to seeing under Michael Beale. So that was interesting to see the style of player that he is, and I think that could come to be an advantage in some games that we play if we want a more rigid defensive structure. But it was in a game against Morton, that's not what you want, especially at Ibrox. Yefeko at left back, I thought had a really good game. He looked a bit nervy at the start. I think gave the ball away initially, and then he absolutely nailed the boy 30 seconds in, which they took their striker a little bit of time to get up, and I'm not surprised. But I think he looks solid. I think he looks confident on the ball. I think his positioning is good, but you can tell he's still a wee bit raw, and he's still a young guy, and it'll take him a wee bit of time. But I think he's shown a lot of promise in that back line. And then going forward, Ravi Matondo said pre-match that he had done well last week against Livingston. He did well again today. His first touch, I thought, was on point today.
Yes, I agree.
We spoke about it. I think he had 3 or 4 crossfield balls from Connor Goldson that were class balls, to be fair, but we come to expect that from Connor Goldson. They were right on Matondo's foot, and his first touch was spot on. His decision making after that was a bit up and down. He can do a bit better in some areas, but I thought he was actually unlucky to not get a goal, and he could have had an assist as well today. So I thought he showed up well, but it's getting the end result, I think, from from now to now. Matondo, Sam Lammers has come under a lot of criticism I see on social media. Gaz Jones in the comments, if I can put it up. Sam Lammers went missing big time today. I don't think he went missing, but I don't think he
didn't do anything.
He didn't influence the game at all. He had some okay touches around the edge of the box and stuff like that, but he just didn't do anything really, which for a player that you signed for £3.5 million or £4 million to be playing against a championship team, you expect them to be doing a lot more in that situation, and he just didn't do enough. He's shown up well in other games that we've played. So Sam Lammers, jury's probably still a wee bit out for me. Some people will really like him, some people are not fans. It's really interesting split at this moment in time, but we're probably all trying to make judgment too early for these kind of players. It's games like Tuesday night that we need them to really step up. And then if you're looking at Cyril Dessers up front, I've kind of just went through the whole team.
The whole team.
Taking over your full podcast.
We're done in about 2 minutes here, guys.
And Cyril Dessers, he shows flashes of stuff that I think is really good, and then he shows flashes of stuff that I'm like, wow, what are you doing? But he scored 2 goals for us now. He's off the mark. He's up and running, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops as time goes on. I think he's got potential to be a really good player for us, but he's also got potential to not influence games enough. It's a bit like Sam Lammers.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points there, but I started the Wednesday podcast by opening up and said to the guys that first half against Servette was absolutely dire. This first half against, I said to you before we came on, I was nearly called them Greenhouse Morton there for a second. We played against Greenhouse Morton, but it was just a really poor first half. The first 2 minutes of the game seemed quite encouraging. We seemed to be going at it full pelt again. Then it just died a death after that. We didn't seem to get going. What I'll ask you, what do you think it is that's just, why are we starting games so slowly? I mean, no disrespect to Morton there, they are not the most difficult team that we are going to face against Ibrox. I realise Beale made 8 changes, but I expect a better first half than that, Craig.
Yeah, I think we all did. I think a little bit can be put down to the fact there's been 8 changes, and really these players have never really played together, and there's a wee bit that comes down to finding their feet with each other. But they should be. We dominated the ball, I think, was the first part, but that's to be expected. We didn't really create a great deal of chances. We spoke about the Cyril Dessers one that he pulled out the sky and volleyed, but it was volleyed straight at the keeper, so the keeper was able to make the save. We created some chances, Matondo caused them problems, but again it was a bit huffing and puffing without any end result, and that's becoming a bit of a theme in games, especially, and we seem to be playing one half where we're good and one half where we're bad. So the first half today was definitely the half where we were bad, but that needs to be sorted. We need to put a full 90 minutes together, and we've not done that yet.
Yeah, and I was trying to take a positive out of the first half, and I can't believe I'm about to say it, but you touched on it earlier. It was Rabi Matondo. I thought he was really, really good in that first half. I was trying to figure out what was going on that left-hand side, though. Although Ufeko was over there, I was maybe expect him to be a bit more forward, but as you said, he largely stuck.
He was the same as Dujon Stelling in terms of he's more of a defender. He's more of a natural defender. He doesn't have. I think he's got a bit of pace about him, but he doesn't have that attacking instinct where he tries to overlap, or he immediately is. When Borna Barisic gives the ball to a wide player, and I criticise Borna Barisic a lot, and I'm not a fan of his style of play, but you can just tell his natural instinct is to pass the ball and then make the move to try and overlap, or at least support support his fellow wide player, whereas if Echo was kind of pass the ball and sit at the halfway line and just create that sort of solid, make his defensive flow solid. A man after my own heart, really, to be honest. I don't like any overlapping runs myself. But I think that's more his style of game. I thought he did well with Echo, but Matondo, and in some circumstances, you'd actually think that Matondo being left one-on-one with the opposition's fullback is what you want, because you want Matondo to run at him, and he did that quite a lot, and they would get the boy got booked in the middle of the first half for taking Matondo out, and he need to keep going and going and going at him. I think he started cutting inside a bit too much after that. You'd want to keep going at him at the byline, but he still had a couple of good runs in the second half as well. He ghosted past 2 of their players and had a really good ball into the middle of the box. None of our strikers were there, which again is still continues to be an issue in terms of
Yeah.
how do we just get a striker that stands in the middle of the 6-yard box. I don't know how we get that. I think we expected one of Dessers or Danilo to do that, but it doesn't seem to be quite the case.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting how that develops, but I think we need someone at least to their main role in that attack is to stand or hover around that space between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot.
So you're saying somebody's going to get a load of old VHSs out the back of Chris Boyd and just go to Danilo or Dessers
It's been
watching
a bit
these?
harsh on Chris Boyd saying VHS. I think he only turned 40 yesterday, did he not? So it's probably a bit harsh on him, considering we're 31 and 32.
It was between VHS and Betamax. I went with VHS for that one. But yeah, I totally take your point. That left side, John Weir here says something. Deal system isn't working. 4 massive games coming up. I partly agree with that in terms of I think that they're just still trying to figure out their roles and responsibilities in terms of the whole thing. I was getting particularly frustrated that when Dowell was coming in from that left, he seemed to always be occupying the space that I was expecting Tondo to run into, and that seemed to be where a few of the issues were from. But another incident in that first half that I'd like to talk about was when Dessers had the ball in the back of the net. I was very perplexed by this. I think the referee was a bit too quick to blow his whistle, but
very perplexed.
Yeah, that's it. And listen, it's a gantry pod with you at Ibrox, Craig. You know I'll bring my thesaurus and use all the big words.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I was unsure what was going on there. Surely the ref should have just let that play go on, let him score, and then review it with VAR. For me, that wasn't a foul.
Yeah, the referee definitely blew his whistle too early. I don't think there's any discrepancy with that view. He should have let the play go on. If Cyril Dessers puts the ball in the back of the net, and then as a judge to have, as the referee did in real time, a judge to have, I think is it pulled or knocked the Morton defender. I'm not entirely sure. We saw lots of comments coming in through the TII Twitter feed saying that it wasn't a foul and it should have been a goal. The referee obviously didn't give it the opportunity to be reviewed because he blew his whistle before the ball hit the back of the net. That's amateurish from the officials there. I mean, it won't be the first time, won't be the last time I say that about referees in Scottish football, but that was as a prime example of how they've not utilised the technology that's there to support them. All the referees wanted additional help to make the right decisions, and David Dickinson today, I keep second guessing that name by the way, but David Dickinson today just felt it was enough of a foul that he didn't need to let it run, and that was I'd like to see. I'm looking forward to seeing that one back.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the highlights when we go. Well, maybe the goals. That's about it when we go back in. Right. So that's the first half over and done with. I know you like me promptly finishing for the first half. But the next talking point, I suppose, of the game is the penalty that Morton get. Again, I was expecting a bit of reaction from Rangers coming out. We've seen it before in the Servette game midweek there. They'd obviously had a rocket up their backsides and maybe a couple of tactical tweaks. But first action point is it was a penalty to Morton 5 minutes into that second half. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it back, Craig, but it was just, the whole thing was just a bit of a shambles to begin with. Yeah,
I mean, the whole start to the second half, I think, very much followed that theme in terms of we didn't come flying out of the box. Morton actually took a wee bit of control in that early part of the second half. I think there was a long throw-in that wasn't dealt with properly. There was then the corner that followed, and as Dessers has gone to, I mean, it was like he was playing with concrete boots on at that point in terms of his touch was a bit heavy, and then he just took an age to try and clear it, and that let the Morton player come in and nick the ball away. There was some contention, I guess, as to whether it should or should not have been a penalty. From where we were sitting, as soon as it happened, we thought it was going to be a penalty. The referee didn't give it in the first instance, but I wasn't surprised when it was given by VAR. Dougie Imrie, the Morton manager, afterwards said they felt both penalties. We wanted to talk about the Rangers penalty, but he said they felt both penalties were a bit soft. And Michael Beale thought that Morton's penalty was more of a penalty than Rangers' penalty, which is an interesting comment as well. But we did think it was a penalty. I don't think there was any contention about that. More disappointed in the way that Cyril Dessers defended that. I see there's a comment there saying that from Gaz Jones saying that Morton's pen was very soft. I'd be interested to see it back. Obviously, we've only seen it live in that one instance, but it's it was just like, here we go again. Almost was how it felt. they scored the penalty, obviously, as we all know, and it was a bit here we go again. Got half an hour, got 35 minutes to get this back. But the goal again just almost forced us into action. It seems to be, and it was raised in the press conference by one of the journalists that asked the question. But it was raised in the press conference around why does it take an instant in a game, whether it's a penalty, whether it's Michael Beale having a go at them at half time, whether it's new substitutions. Why does it take something to get these players going? It seems to be a theme throughout all these games, and it's like that's the real concern for us in terms of something needs to happen before these players get going, instead of them just coming out the tunnel and here we go, we're going to go take control of this game and win this game. And if you go behind to a PSV, if you go behind to a better team, it's really, really difficult to come back and win it. And as much as the resilience was there today and we were the better team by a mile, it's still concerning that we are taking a catalyst from somewhere to be able to make us do something in a game. We need to go by our own volition and go by our own desire to win a game, and that we need to snap out of that really quickly.
Yeah, agreed. It was something the manager was actually asked in the post-match.
He kind of danced around it as well. He never really answered
it. I thought it was an odd. I see his point in terms of him saying this will not be the team that we see at Ibrox regularly this season, which is a fair point. But by the same token of that, we had. If you take, I don't know, Hagi, he cost more than the entire Morton team put together, and he came on the bench. So you would expect guys, when there's guys like that on the pitch, to be doing a lot better, to be starting the game. You shouldn't need a motivation. I mean, every single one of our new signings that's come in has talked about, I cannot wait to play in front of the fans. The fans are fantastic. They'll be doing the motivating. Well, maybe it's time to see that soon, to be honest with you. And in terms of the penalties, I have to say this, but referencing Chris Boyd for the second time on a podcast, there's hard-boiled eggs and there's soft-boiled eggs, but they're still eggs at the end of the day, aren't they? So
very true. I like you off for that one.
That's fine. Look, the next action point of the game is on 57 minutes, where Rangers are awarded a penalty this time via VAR. I don't think there was many claims from the Rangers players
or the fans. We didn't even notice a thing. Obviously, we saw the ball come across. I think it might have been Cifuentes that played the ball across from a free kick. Looks like it's just overhit it a little bit. Leon Balogun stretching to get the ball. It kind of makes contact with the ball just as it goes out the pitch. But there was then a delay for what seemed like a good few minutes at least, and the referee was checking something. No one in the ground. Everyone, thankfully, this time around, people actually knew there was a VAR check because it does come up on the screen, which is progress. But I think no one in the ground really knew what it was for. The referee goes to the screen, you start to get an assumption that 85%, 90% certain it's going to be a penalty to Rangers. It was. Cyril Dessers stepped up to take the penalty. There was an audible gasp in the stadium, which was
it was weird,
which was disconcerting for us sitting in the stadium. But I can't imagine what it would be like for him as he's about to take the penalty. But he duly stepped up, swatted the penalty home, and I think from that point onwards, Morton were kind of out on their feet. They were kind of done almost at that point, and I guess we'll come on to talking about the rest of the game, but it was disappointing that we didn't then go on to win by much more than just the one.
That's it, exactly. The next action point of the game, I'm not sure, I've not written the minutes down for this, but it was Rangers' second goal of the game. I actually thought this was I give Dessers is due here. Comes back, the boys sleeping in the middle of the pitch, nicks the ball off him, plays a really good through ball to Danilo. Danilo, a couple of touches. I love it. I love that cutback he's got where he can switch it to the different foot, and he just totally takes the defender out of it. Done that, and it was a lovely finish. For as much criticism as Dessers will get today, I fear he's got a goal and assist. Should have had another goal. But yeah, fantastic finish by Danilo, and that's both strikers scored 2 goals already.
Yeah, I think Dessers has had a real impact on the game today. We do need to remember it's against a championship team, so there's only so much you can read into that. We need them to be making an impact in the bigger games. We need them to make an impact in a game like Tuesday night. It'll be really interesting to see if he is part of that front three as we go into the game on Tuesday. But he's made a real impact today, and I think you can see him getting fitter and fitter. Michael Beale spoke about him after the game in terms of really pleased with his performance today, and you can see how much of a difference the last 10 days has made in terms of his overall fitness. So yeah, I think Ronald de Boer said that when he's bad, but when he's good.
Words to those effect, I think it was.
Something along those kind of lines. It wasn't a direct quote. That was a summary of Ronald De Boer's comments, and I think we are seeing a bit of that. It'll be interesting to see if the good gets better and it gets more consistent. I think that's what we really need.
That's it. And towards the end of that second half, I think there was a few more good passages of play. We've seen some substitutions come on. I think that was more the Rangers that we would like to see. But again, by the same token, I totally get that Morton were tired. They were absolutely blown out in their backsides towards
the end. And they only had
game.
3 outfield players on the bench.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Which I guess makes us look more at Rangers and why they didn't capitalise more. But it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this, Kyle. But we did. We got into those situations that we've seen so far in Rangers games in terms of we're breaking at pace in the counter attack. We're 3-on-3. We've got a man advantage 4-on-3, and we do something that's just a bit off, or the pass is just a bit slow, or we just slightly make the wrong decision. And we're seeing it a pattern now, game after game. We're actually doing well at getting into these positions, and then we're messing it up somehow, well before we even get a shot away. How frustrating is that for you, and how do we get better at that?
If I knew the answer to that question, I'd be the manager of Rangers Football Club, Craig. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, but you know what I'm like. I watch every single training video that goes out possible, and you watch them, and every single time. I mean, Lammers especially was a guy that every time he's told to shoot by one of the coaching staff, he scores more often than not. I do not know how it's not been replicated in the games. I don't know if they just need a bit more time, and I know people will be getting so frustrated in the comments at me saying this, but I'm sick of hearing it as well, that we just need time to gel, we just need time to click. That's 11 games now, I think, including pre-season that we've had. We should be more cohesive than this, Craig.
Yeah, we definitely should be more cohesive than this, and the players should know each other a lot better than they seem to do. I thought Jose Cifuentes had a good game again today. He struggled a little bit midweek. I thought he had a good game midweek, but he struggled a little bit in terms of tracking these men, because he obviously lost his man for a couple of the big chances that Servette had, and the issue that we had on Wednesday night was the player running from deep. But I thought Cifuentes showed up well again today. He showed his strength, he showed his power, he showed his passing ability. We've not quite seen the ferocious shots that we were seeing from his time at LAFC before he came here. He had a couple of sighters, a goal, but they were just kind of dragged wide. But Cifuentes has shown up really well and really encouraging. He was given man of the match in the stadium today, which was interesting. We kind of thought Kieran Dowell was probably man of the match.
We've hardly mentioned.
We've not really mentioned. So can you give us just your thoughts on Kieran Dowell's performance and what he did with him?
I think he's so good in terms of that versatile role. I know the only thing I've sort of alluded to so far in the podcast was I felt he was getting in the way of Matondo, but he's obviously listened to the manager's instructions for that one. I just think he's got that bit of bite that we really lack, that some of the other players are really lacking. He's not afraid to put his foot in to win a tackle, and honestly, the biggest thing for Dowell me is his urgency. He's one of the few players that's even taking free kicks. He wants to, get in and about it and take them quickly, and even his versatility as well. That's something that Beale spoke about. He wants players that can play multiple positions. He was up playing, a slightly further forward, left of centre role in that first half, and then when the substitutions happened, he sat in the John Lundstram role, deeper in the midfield, and he was. For me, he was much better than Lundstram in that position, and he was only playing there for about 20 minutes. But yeah, I thought Kieran Dowell had a fantastic game. What was your thoughts on him today, Craig?
Yeah, I think he's done well. I think he's shown up well in most games that he's played for us so far. I get the impression he's one of these guys he's almost like a Sasa Papac, in terms of he's like do you see how he's seamless by his Sasa Papac in there? He's almost a Sasa Papac, and you're going to get 7 out of 10 every single game from Kieran Dowell.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a standout every single game, but he's going to give you that consistency and performance, and I think that's what we're starting to see, and that can be really beneficial as a player. How much he's going to start games, I think my opinion is that the starting midfield, if all our players are fit, and we go into a game against PSV on Tuesday where I think our starting midfield will be Raskin, Cantwell and Cifuentes.
Yeah.
Whether Cantwell gets moved forward in into the front line, and then you bring Doyle in as part of that. I think that's an option we'll see quite a few times, but he's definitely got a big part to play for Rangers this season.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's a very fair comparison. I suppose it's been a long time since you mentioned Sasa Papic in a podcast, so fair play you for getting that one in. Look, I'm just going to bring up, I don't want to get into the Hagi press conference just yet. I want to bring up this comment from James Glasgow, so that's very good. He said, in my opinion, Hagi's a better player than Lammers, struggling to see what he brings to the team. I'd imagine he's a great five-a-side player. That's the second game in a row that I thought Lammers was pretty poor, to be honest with you. Yeah, what do you think of that comment? And
yeah, it's probably about. What do I think of that comment? It's probably a bit harsh. I think Sam Lammers is the kind of player that's probably going to be a bit streaky. I think we've seen him score a couple of goals so far and have some influences in other games. He's not contributed a thing really. So he's going to be a bit streaky. Can we afford to have that kind of player? Questionable. Yanis Hagi is obviously the automatic comparison because Rangers fans like Yanis Hagi a lot. Yanis Hagi's coming into games, and a lot of players feel like a lot of fans think he should have more game time. He got some game time today and showed that well. We'll come on to his post-match press conference comments in a bit. But I think Sam Lammers needs to. He's scored a couple of important goals for us so far. We need more of that. We need it to be more consistent. But I think he's done okay up to this point.
Yeah, that's it. And I think RFC72 is making a very similar comment. Why do you fork out 3 million for Lammers to be the 10 when Cantwell is the best player that plays there? 10 million to the exact same strikers that are spending in the wide areas of defence. Yeah, again, I think it's a fair comment. I'm
not convinced though that Lammers is bought to be the 10 as such. I think he seems to be playing, and I know the front three do rotate, and the kind of Cyril Dessers said after, I think it was after the first leg against Servette, Cyril Dessers said the front three are told, right, you guys are the front three, and then they're literally
do what you want.
effectively just told do what you want, move about as you see fit. Someone needs to pick up this guy, someone needs to pick up this guy, someone needs to pick up this guy, but you have the freedom when we're on the ball to move where you see fit. So I wouldn't necessarily say Sam Lammers is a 10. We're seeing several variations in terms of whether Lammers is playing wide, whether he's playing behind the striker, whether he's playing as the main striker himself. So he's playing a number of different roles, and a lot of the players we will see that. And sometimes we will see Todd Cantwell come into that role, but I think Todd Cantwell's also shown how important he can be for our team in terms of driving us forward and creating that urgency from midfield and moving us forward at pace, which is another really important thing for us that we've been lacking over the last year or so.
That's it. And the Trying Scotsman here says, Lammers put streaks in my box at times. That'll teach you for using the word streaky in a podcast there.
Yeah, I kind of thought that. I saw you laugh as I said that, so kind of assumed that was coming.
No, and one of the final things I'd just like to talk about in the podcast here, John, I'll just go for John in this one, says, I've just seen the Hagi interview. He's going to leave. He's raging about not being played. I must say, reading between the lines of that post-match press conference, he's a nice guy, clearly a very professional guy, Yanis Hagi, but you could tell that he was certainly frustrated that he didn't start that game and he's not been given more opportunities. He kept referencing the fans, the manager knows what I've done here in the past at the club. He knows how much. What was it he said? I'm a simple guy. I just want to play football.
Yeah.
That was like us once upon a time, Craig, wasn't it? But the sentiment is very much there, and it's a difficult one. What did you make about that whole interview, and what would you say in the whole Hagi, 10, Lammers, Cantwell?
Yeah. I think Hagi's been very diplomatic in his answer while still getting his point across. I guess the summary can be seen on the TII Twitter account of what Yanis Hagi said, but effectively he was saying that he respected the manager's decision to not play him more, but he disagreed with it. I don't think that's going to be news to anyone in terms of football or wants to play more football. But Yanis Hagi was very clear in terms of his fitness as well. I thought that was a really interesting point because he was very clear in terms of, I've not missed a training session since the start of pre-season. He's like, I'm up to match fitness. I just need more game time to play. I want to play. I'm here to play. I think I should be playing. He's effectively just might let me play, which was and I am of the mind that we should have Yanis Hagi playing. I don't think Yanis Hagi was ever the kind of player that we wanted bombed out of the team or didn't feel he contributed enough. He's had a big injury. We all felt we probably needed ease back in. I think the time for easing them back in is gone, and I think Yanis Hagi feels like the time for easing them back in is gone, and he just wants thrown into the deep end. And I don't think there's any harm in that one, but I think he should be part of that, whether it's a rotation or whether it's an occasionally play Hagi, occasionally play Lammers kind of thing. And we've also got guys like Tom Warren still to come back as well. I'm surprised he didn't get some game time today. We saw Kamar Roof come in. If he can get up to match fitness and actually play some games, that would be really beneficial as a foil to Danilo and Dessers. It's there's lots of options there, but I do think Yanis Hagi should be an important part of the Rangers first team this season, and I would be really disappointed if Yanis Hagi was to leave in the next couple of weeks before the transfer window slams shut.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we'll be keeping an eye on that one for the foreseeable, certainly until the transfer window shuts, because it was just like, having seen him a few times in post-match press conferences now, there was definitely a wee bit of spikiness in that one, wasn't there? But yeah, fair play to him. We remain professional throughout it. Look, I think just before we wrap the whole thing up, I'll just get a man of the match off you. I know you sort of alluded to Kieran Dowell, but is there anybody else that stood out for you today?
I thought Leon Balogun had a good game. Jack Butland had a good game, which is not necessarily what you want to.
Absolutely not.
Not what you want to be saying. And when they're playing Morton, he had one kind of brain fart, I guess is probably the best way to describe it, but it did look like a shove from the Morton striker. I think it was the very last act of the game, effectively. But apart from that, he showed up well. He was always on his toes. I do enjoy the fact that he is reading the game and he's always standing at the edge of his 18-yard line, ready to sweep up anything that comes past the defenders. So Jack Butland had a good game. Dessers was fine. Danilo is showing promise. I think we'll be absolutely fine with him. With him in the team, I'd be surprised if he doesn't become the starting player more often than not. With Dessers in a bit of a supporting role. So I think there were some, and Cifuentes, as we mentioned as well, was promising. So I think there's quite a few good things to take out of today, but the overall performance I don't think is one of them. And we really need to buck up our ideas and on that front and start to put them together. The time for gelling, I guess, is been and gone. We're going into the playoff round for the Champions League, and we need to have a real performance here from Rangers on Tuesday night if we're going to have any chance of going through. PSV are going to be a tough task. I think we're going to struggle against PSV massively. I'm not going into this tie with much hope. I thought PSV would have beaten us last year as well, if we're honest, and we showed how much of a difference that can make. So Michael Beale said, as we look forward to the PSV game, that we need a traditional Ibrox European night, and I think the atmosphere will be rocking at the start, but it can quickly turn. And because I think there is a lot of scepticism about, do Rangers have the ability to even lay a hand on PSV. Michael Beale spoke today again about it's going to be two teams throwing punches at each other, and we need to make sure ours land. I think that's exactly what we need, and we need to see that real impact as we go into the game, and we need to make sure we're still well in the tie, hopefully leading the tie, going to Eindhoven, because going to Eindhoven again, we know how nervy that was last year, and it's going to be another really tricky one.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I think a word I've said already this week is there's so much angst among the support right now, and a bit of trepidation and nervousness going into it. But it was nice for the team to get a nice, comfortable 2-1 victory today over Morton to settle those nerves, wasn't it?
It definitely didn't settle my nerves.
No, I know. But listen, I think that's just about us for today from us. I just want to say thanks very much, Craig, for joining us.
A pleasure as always. I was surprised that you came to me there. I wasn't expecting you to rhyme it off, but it's a pleasure as always.
That's it. But so listen, guys, just I'm sure we'll be back soon. We'll have a post-match reaction from the PSV game, and we'll see how that goes. But thanks everybody for watching, joining, tuning in, and we will see you all soon.